Hello folks, in this lecture we are going to talk about a common issue which is faced by the developers and how do they resolve it to avoid the problem. Let's take an example that there is a repository in our GitHub account. Now developer 1 and developer 2 want to work on the same code. So to get that code we need to pull it into our local system, right? For that we can execute a command called git clone so that the code will come into the local system. Now assume that developer 1 has pulled the code. Similar way, even developer 2 also cloning the same repository. At this point of time, everybody have the same piece of code. Now developer 1 and developer 2 start working on this code. Let's assume that developer 1 has updated his code. Now there is some change or variation with the remote repository code. Similar way, even developer 2 also updated his code. Now both the guys have done their own changes to the same repository. Now we need to push this code onto remote repository, right? Now let's say that developer 1 is trying to check in his code onto remote repository. At this point of time, developer 1 can able to check in his code without any issue. Why? Because whatever commit ID on the remote repository and whatever commit ID he was having on local repository, both are same. Now on top of that one, he has done his own commits. So while pushing also, there won't be any problem. Developer 1 can able to update his code with the remote repository. Whereas if developer 2 is trying to update his code onto remote repository, it doesn't take it. Why? Because whenever you have pulled this code from the remote repository, the code what were there in the remote repository and what is there at this point of time, both are different. To avoid this problem, we need to pull the code by using git pull command, pushing our changes or checking in our changes. That is the best practice. Apart from this, we can still use git branches, which we are going to talk about those in the later part of this course. Let's see this. Let's see this demonstration with practical. So to demonstrate this example, I am taking a repository called test hello. So far we have 12 commits over here. I'm going to clone this repository onto developer 1 system as well as developer 2 system. Let's go to developer 1 system first. Developer 1 system means my local system. I'm under projects directory. Under this, I have one more directory called Java projects. This time I'm going to clone my repository over here. So let's open git bash over here. Okay, so if I do pwd, I'm under Java projects. We have few existing projects over there. Anyway, I'm going to clone my repository, git clone. Let's take the repository. This is the repository and I'm cloning it over here. Alright, developer 1 has been cloned this repository successfully. And if I do ls, we have a test hello. I'm inside to test hello. Similar way, I'm going to clone this repository onto developer 2 system as well. This is developer 2 system. I'm under root directory. I have already few existing repositories. Here I'm going to clone the repository. So even on Linux system or developer 2 system also, I should use the same command. So we are cloning the repository. Now let me go to test hello and clear the screen. Now both the developers are start working on this repository. Let's assume that now both have the version 1 code, which means that git log if I do, you can just see here your current commit is at E97E. Even here also git log, your current commit is at E97E. Now while pushing my code, even in the remote repository also same commit should be there. If some other commit, you cannot able to push your code. Okay, so let me update a few content in this file. Let me go to src here. Okay, main java. Okay, I'm updating this file app.java. Some updates we need to do. Let's update this file. Something is there, so I'm just updating it as a welcome to DevOps training is there. This I'm going to change it as a welcome to Git, sorry, training. Okay, so I'm just save this file, and if I do git status, git add dot, I'm adding this onto local staging area, git commit -m updated app.js app.java file. Okay, so I have updated and this has been updated in the local repo. If I do git log, this has been updated in the local repo. Now, if I want to push or if I want to check in this commit onto remote repository, I can do without any issues. Why? Because even my remote repository is still at this version. Okay, so if I go to commits, you can see here at this moment your remote repository also at E97E, that is the commit ID. Even in our developer 1 system also in the same, even in developer 2 system also at the same level. Now what I'm doing is, as a developer 2, I'm also updating this code. Let me do ls, and I'm updating only pom.xml file. So here change the snapshot version. This you can understand in my complete DevOps course if you have enrolled. If you enrolled only for the Git course, don't worry, it is just we are updating some content. And save this file and git status. If I do, here I have updated pom.xml and git add. I'm adding my changes to the staging area and git commit -m use updated pom.xml. Okay. So I have updated my code, and if I do git log over here, here also on top of my remote commit, I have done one more commit. Now in this case, even developer 1 and developer 2 both are updating the same local repository. Now whoever pushing their code first, they don't get any problem. Why? Because in remote repository, whatever commit is there, even these guys also having the same commit. On top of that one, we are updating. But whoever checking their code second time, they are going to get the problem. Why? Because if developer 1 has pushed his code, then in the remote repository commit ID should be this one. But whenever I'm pushing as a developer 2, I'm still thinking that this is the commit ID. But whereas in remote repository, the commit ID became this one. Then we get a problem. Let's see that one. I'm pushing my changes at as a developer 1. So git push origin master. Okay, I have updated my changes onto remote repository. If I go and refresh it over here, okay, one more commit which has done at 3 minutes ago. Now let me try to commit my changes as a developer too, and we'll see what happens. Git push origin master. In this case, what I'm thinking, still my remote repository is at this commit. On top of that one, I'm trying to update this commit. But whereas in the reality, it has one more commit. Now you can see, okay, while pushing, it is asking for credentials because I haven't set up any credentials over here. Revd. Okay, you can see here, failed to push some reference to so and so. What it is trying to say is updates were rejected because the remote contains work that you do not have locally. This is usually caused by another repository pushing to the same reference. So whatever reference I'm trying to push means on top of this one, I'm trying to push my changes. This is the reference I'm taking, but it is no more valid reference at this point. Why? Because there is one more reference point. On top of this reference point only I can push it my changes. That is why you are getting this error. So to resolve this one, you need to pull the changes from the remote repository. Then again you need to push it. Before doing this one, if I do git log, you can still see this. This is your commit, right? Now I'm going to do git pull. Okay, it is saying that merge branch master from so and so into your local system. Yes, I want to do this. Is take it as a one more extra commit in your local system. Now it has been updated app.java, and if I do git log, you can see here this is actually your local commit, and this is the remote commit which is pulled from the remote repository. But while pulling your remote repository, your code and remote repository code has to get merged. That is the reason you will get one more commit as extra, that is merge branch. Okay, now how many commits we are having in the remote repository? Initially 12 were there, then as a developer 1 I have done one more commit, it became 13, but this time it should be 14, right? Instead of 14 it will become 15. Why? Because this merge branch commit also added in my local repository, and before this one I could see another commit, that is what earlier commit E97E. Okay, anyway, if I do git push over here, this time it should be pushed into the remote repository. All right, I have successfully pushed my code onto remote repository, and if I just refresh it, this time it should be 15 commits. Okay, if I go to my commits over here, okay, March branch is one more extra commit, and this is as a developer too, I have done this one before that app.java because he has pushed his code prior to my code. That is how you can push your code. But to overcome this problem, we are going to use branches. Most of the cases, developers, they don't commit their changes onto the branch which they are using. As a best practice, instead of doing your changes onto the branch which you pulled from the remote repository, you create your own branch and do the changes. That is how you can avoid these kind of conflicts. Anyway, you are going to understand about Git branches in the later point of time in this course. Thanks for watching and see you in the next lecture.